So in this video, we want to describe the transformation that maps y equals x squared plus x plus 1 onto each of these. So let's take a look at number 1 first. We're looking for things that have changed. Now the x squared has remained as it is. The x has become minus x, and the plus 1 has remained as it is. Now, if we think about function notation for a moment, if we're looking at y equals f of x, and it has been mapped to y equals f of negative x, we know that this is a reflection in the y-axis. The x has been replaced with negative x, which means it is affecting the horizontal direction. And if it's affecting the horizontal direction as a reflection, it must be going across a vertical mirror line. And so that's a reflection in the y-axis. Now, essentially, what we need to do is convince ourselves that this is a reflection in the x-axis. So, if we think about the x's have been replaced with negative x, then there is a pitfall that you must be careful of not falling into. Okay? So what we're going to do is ignore the result for the moment. We're just going to take a look at this, and we're going to replace the x's with negative x. Okay? You might want to try this out yourself first. So pause the video, have a little think about what you think the answer is going to be. So, if we replace the x with minus x, you must make sure that because you've got x squared here, that is this. Okay, so you have this bracket around the x that we don't bother writing in. We don't bother drawing it. We don't need to in order to understand this. However, when you replace the x with minus x, you want to make sure that you are also squaring the negative sign. Because if you're not, if you write down this is not negative x all squared. This is negative x squared. So it's essentially the difference between negative 2 times 2 and the difference between that and minus 2 times minus 2. So one will be positive, one will be negative. So in this scenario, we're replacing the x with minus x, so you must make sure you put a bracket around it. Then you've got this x that also gets replaced with negative x. I'm just going to put a bracket around it there just to emphasize it. And then we've got the plus 1. So this is the same as this, because when you have negative x all squared, you're squaring the negative, and so that becomes positive. So minus x times minus x is x squared. And then you're adding on negative x, which is just the same as take away x. And then you've got the plus 1 at the end. So this is a reflection in the y-axis. Now you might remember from the previous video that if you have a situation where all of the terms have changed sign, then that must be a reflection in the x-axis. The reason for this is that you could write that as the negative of, and open up a bracket, x squared plus x plus 1. So think of this as minus 1 times x squared, minus 1 times x, minus 1 times 1. Okay? This is your f of x. This is the negative of f of x. So because the minus sign is on the outside, it affects the vertical direction, and that must mean it is reflecting across a horizontal line. So that is reflection in the x-axis. Okay?